Today, we are talking about marketing playbooks. We've had folks asking questions in the past about how to use your pipeline. And let me just tell you, it all comes together into one cohesive piece. And let me get rid of that thing because it's annoying. I made it worse. There we go. And Maggie is waiting to be let in. Okay. And Sharon, awesome. We have a good turnout today. So we're going to do a little bit of teaching, a little bit of talking, and a little bit of in your app. So while I'm pulling my slides together, I would love it if you could have a tab open that has your automation on a mission open, and save yourself even an extra step by clicking on the opportunities section of your app. And I'm going to go back over to my little doodad, and I'm going to do my little present thing. Got it. Look at me getting all good at figuring out how to share the right screen at the right time. Although there's no notes on this one, so it's not nearly as exciting as normal. Okay, so today we're talking about building your marketing playbook. And what I really love specifically about these kinds of tools and resources and these kinds of conversations is because it's about goal setting, which is something that we all really love to do. And when it comes to creating tangible goals in our business that we want to tie to specific outcomes, it can be very challenging for us to really have a good strategic way of knowing how are we going to get there. So today's training and activities are all going to be based on building the foundation or the infrastructure to allow you to create strategic goals for your business, whether that's about lead generation, it's about revenue in your business, it's about the number of clients that you're serving, all of those things. And so those are the kinds of things that we'll be talking about today, and how to use the system to give you that information. So, and you can see my screen, right? My little title screen. Okay. So
yes, but you have a little thing that says audience window. This window is what your audience sees. Drag to the screen to your audience.
Oh, enter full screen mode. There you go. Sorry about that.
There we
go. How about now? Is that better?
Much better.
Perfect. Okay. So here's what I think about when I think about a typical small business strategy. So I've been doing the perfect customer journey training over and over again. And in that training, we talk about it being kind of like when your small business is in survival mode, this is kind of what it looks like. So if you've had small children, or you have small children, or you've ever been to like a tiny tot game, picture what it looks like when you watch them chase the ball around the field. So you see the ball moving and you see the herd of kids running around. Is there strategy? Absolutely not. All they care about is the ball. They don't care if they even get it into their own goal. And so typically speaking, when we don't have a strategy in our business, we're essentially doing the same thing. We're chasing the ball, and the ball is maybe going in the direction that we want it to go, and it may not be. Maybe it achieves the wrong goal. We have no idea because we don't have a really clear strategy. So this idea, and I'm totally not a ball sports person, which quick random side note, I'm a lefty, and I bought a left-handed softball glove, and Annika and I have been playing catch in the backyard, and it's hilarious to learn how to catch as a 47-year-old woman again. And she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm protecting my face. I'm pretty. So that's typically my response. So anyway, so just know that I'm really making my best effort here with the sports analogies, because I'm really more of like a swimmer and a runner and a cyclist, not a team sport. But I understand this idea that when we don't have a play book in our sports, we have herd ball. So what typically happens as a result of lack of strategy when it comes to our marketing and our sales is we create chaos, and there is a lot of waste as it relates to how we create outputs in our business. So when you have bright, shiny object syndrome, where somebody gives you this brilliant idea and you need to immediately stop what you're doing and go down that road, that is lacking in strategy, and that is your herd ball. So bright, shiny object equals soccer ball or football. So pop quiz. So I've been preaching the perfect customer journey for years now, and I'm feeling pretty confident that, with the exception of Sharon today, you may not have learned or watched any of our webinars about the perfect customer journey. Can anybody remember any of the stages of the perfect customer journey, whether that be because you are doing the course content that's in your system or because you've been a part of any of our trainings? Can anybody remember? Even if you don't know like the proper term and you're just thinking from a common sense standpoint, what would be a stage in a perfect customer journey?
Attract, sell, and wow.
Well done. Okay, so Judith is cheating because that is my next 3 slides. Attract, sell, wow, awesome. Or I could also say gold star, Judith. So in each one of these stages, we have 3 sub-stages, but for the sake of simplicity, we think about the attract stages, knowing who our ideal client is, creating enticing offers to make sure that we can draw them in, because we would much rather have them coming to us than us constantly being in a state of pursuing, having a way of capturing and collecting leads, having a way of educating those people, indoctrinating them in who we are, what makes us so special, creating an easy way for them to buy from us and making it so that they can buy from us, and then delivering on our promises, making sure that we're over delivering so that they are raving fans, going and telling all their friends, families, and neighbors about how amazing we are and doing the selling for us. So these are essentially the 3 key buckets that we want to pay attention to in today's conversation. And when you look at all of the modules in your perfect customer journey training course, or you go and you click on the automations tab in your app, you'll see that you've got automations that support every single stage of that perfect customer journey. So I want to ask yourself right now, and Linda's already answered with an assuring nod that she loves bright, shiny object syndrome. Do you think you have a clear marketing strategy? And do you feel like in your own personal commitment to your business, would you say that having a marketing strategy is a luxury? Or would you consider that to be more of a necessity in your business? And if anybody wants to chime in and tell me their thoughts and feelings and feedback, I would love to hear where you think you're at. Don't everybody all say anything, and this isn't like a group of strangers, so I can like sit here and stare at you all awkwardly.
It's definitely a necessity.
Okay. Yeah, I vote for necessity. Do I have it?
Right.
I have it and then I don't have it. It's like, for me, this marketing strategy, and that's why I'm on the call today, it's like herding cats. I think I have it and then I don't.
Yes. And could that possibly be because when an opportunity comes, you shift course and now all of a sudden your strategy is over to the left and you're over to the right? Yeah. So I think that is a very common factor. And then what ends up happening is it makes it very difficult for us to set clear and measurable goals. It makes it very difficult for us to know whether or not we're achieving the goals in our business because we're going in 6 million directions all at the same time. So I really want to challenge. And I will also say, and I've kind of hinted at this before, so like, I don't look at what everybody does all day, every day and things like that, but I have like a page in my system where I can look and see how our clients are doing in the system. I can see how many emails you're sending. I can see how many leads you're bringing in. I can see how many text messages you're sending. And what I would say is that overall, it feels like most of our clients are in a constant stage of learning and creating and not a lot of doing. So if you feel that's you, just, like this message is for you. I'm going to give you a resource that hopefully will allow you to get out of the creating stage sometimes and into the doing stage. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at moving away from herdball and moving towards making something that looks like X's and O's that has some sort of clear, definitive strategy that reaches our target goal, not just any goal, our target goal. And in order for us to be able to do that, we have to actually understand where we are starting from in order to know whether or not we've successfully created a path that's going to get us where we need to go. So I have a resource and I did forget, so my apologies here. Let me just grab the link for you.
I see you're hanging out with my best friend there, ChatGPT.
Oh, yes. All day, every day. All day.
Love it.
I shared a video with our VA, Nadine, that I'll share with you guys as well. And Katie, who I know is on the line today, I think I shared it with her too. It's really awesome in that it takes, it does give you some really good insights on, you know, how to do that, like really good relationship building with ChatGPT, so that Sarah, mine's name is Sarah, so she does a better job every time. So I named mine because like I spend more time with her right now than I do with anybody else. So why not like build a nice intimate relationship? You can see my screen again that says to get where you're going, you need to know where you're starting from, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so I have the bit.ly link right here. And this is, I don't think I'm smart enough on this one to make it so that it forces you to make a copy. So please make a copy of that sheet. And what it's going to do is it's going to give you access to a document. And this is the WAPN end to my presentation. And now we're going to start getting into some specifics. So go ahead and click on that link, and it's going to give you the resource that we're going to be working on. And we're only going to spend a couple of minutes on this because after this, we're going to go into our actual apps. So it should look something like this once you open it up. And my last slide to you said to get where you're going, you need to know where you're starting. So at the very top of your Google Sheet, oh, Maggie, did you have a question? You're still on mute.
What happened to the press the space bar and it comes off?
Oh,
I just need to finish copying this. I'll copy it out of the chat.
okay.
I'm
Yeah,
working
and
on
you
two different laptops at this moment.
Oh, sorry. And I'm going to share that screen now.
Okay,
It's more interesting.
I'm there.
Excuse me, and more fun. Okay, so you should have something that looks like this. And you should have a copy. So what happens on this sheet, so I took a picture and I put it in my slide of just this section up here at the very top. And so you get to put your business name, no big deal there. You get to decide what kind of business you're in. And this part, you know, all of these things are just like little extra bells and whistles. But do you have an idea today how much money you consistently bring in your business? So if you do, in your version, in your copy, put that in your current monthly sales. Judith, you're on mute. And if you guys want to unmute so that we can talk, that's fine by me.
It's in a view only. So where do I make a copy of it to be able to do that?
Go ahead and ask for edit access because I can't figure out how to make it so that I can share it.
I don't know how to
Just
ask.
go to file up there on the left. Click
Yeah.
file and then make a copy.
Got it. I thought there was something in there.
And
Thank
then
you.
it'll come up and it'll say copy, keep, la, la, la. And you can change the name. I start everything with AOAM if it's automation on a mission so that I know where to find that stuff.
I forgot that it was called that. So because I started doing this training 2 years ago when I was doing this with Keep clients. So all of this stuff is applicable regardless as to what system you're using.
Yeah, so you don't need to keep anymore.
No, although I was typing to somebody the other day and I went to say I was going to keep something, you know, like I'm going to keep it, hold on to it, you know, and I spelled it wrong. So they, you know, they're forever in my heart. Anyways, so if you know what your current monthly sales are, put that in cell GHI row 5. And then the next thing that you're going to do is if you know exactly how many leads you're bringing in per month, this means not customers, leads. Put that into row 6. And if you know how many clients, so think about how many new clients you brought in May so far. How many new clients did you bring in April and March? Even if you just take the last 3 months and create an average of those 3. And then the last thing is, and you can change this. So you'll see where it says 60-day sales goal. If you want that to be a 90-day sales goal or a 30-day sales goal, all of that's totally up to you. But think about the field over to the right of that is going to give you an automatic calculation as to what sort of growth you want. So in my sample here, I said, let's say that we're bringing in $8,000 a month. We have currently about 12 leads coming in per month, and we're closing an average of 4 leads a month. But we want to increase our revenue up to $15,000 per month. That means that we're looking for an 88% growth.
Christy, I
So
have a question for you because I have clients that buy packages. And so they'll buy like a 5-session or a 10-session package from me. So that can go over a 2.5 month period if they buy. So on the, and I know I'm splitting hairs, but on the current clients per month, that would be people who have became clients 2.5 months ago sometimes.
I would say that what you probably want to be paying attention to is the revenue, because really what we're doing is we're calculating how do you reach your revenue goals. So if you collect that money up like at the very beginning, then that's, yeah. So then that money is realized. So let's say you had somebody sign up today, that's revenue for May. So, so I wouldn't count that as, revenue.
So how many new clients am I getting per month?
Correct. Because once that money has been brought in, it's essentially spent in your business in some way, shape, or form. So now we've got to figure out how to replace that income and grow that consistently. And so maybe what you're thinking about is there stability in the business model that you have where people buy one and then they're done, and next month, so today I eat and tomorrow I starve. Right. So those are things that you might be thinking about as you're putting these numbers down. So the reason why I love this essentially this worksheet is because these are the things that it's going to expose in your business. Is when you have a goal of making $15,000 a month and you're consistently only making $8,000 a month, can you realistically create a path that's producing 88% growth? Because not only do you have to sustain your 8,000, you have to bring in that much more money. So it's about setting realistic goals. And my intention is not to spend our entire time here. So I want to spend a couple more minutes on this sheet. And then I want to go into our app and talk about where do we get this data from on a consistent basis? And then how do we implement this so that you constantly see how close are you to realizing money in your business? So at the very top, if you have no idea, like let's say you're pulling numbers from the sky, if you go into your dashboard right now, are the numbers that you filled in, do they match what's in your dashboard? Any thoughts or feedback, or anybody brave enough to share their thoughts or opinions?
Well, mine might match because I'm not using it for this right now.
Okay. Okay. So, and that's what the second half of our training is going to be about, is how do you use the system to make it so that when you sit down and you tweak these numbers, you actually know exactly what those things are. So like at any given time, I can have a good guesstimate as to where my number of leads, my number of clients are per month, but I use the dashboard to do a more accurate job of understanding consistency in my revenue, consistency in how do I create goals that I can achieve and sustain. So moving past the first section here, I asked you my pop quiz question about the stages of the perfect customer journey. So if we focus on exactly what these numbers translate to in our perfect customer journey, it looks something like this. In order for us to continue with our current rate of conversion, so we need to then that means that we need to add, so we're bringing in 12 leads per month. We need to add at least 3 more leads to sustain the same level of conversion to be able to achieve our total number of client goals. So even if 88 seems really high, perhaps this idea of getting 3 additional qualified leads doesn't feel so high. Or maybe it means that I need to have, so my current conversion rate is 33.3%. What can I do to improve my close rate by 7.8% to bring on 2 additional clients? And this is what that translates to in terms of the additional average customer value. In order for me to get to my $15,000 goal. And so what you can do is you can start by putting your high level numbers up here. And then if that doesn't feel sustainable, you can look down here and see that, oh, okay, you know what? Actually, I actually have a good idea as to how I can go about getting 3 additional clients. Or let me now start to work on my plan. Okay, I'm really committed to $15,000 a month. So now I'm going to start focusing on what do I need to do to get 3 extra clients per month. And so the next part of our worksheet is going to be identifying what are the things that I can be working on and focusing on in my business. And this gets us out of bright, shiny object syndrome because you've created a play. So I'm going to create individual plays for each stage of the customer journey. So I'm going to say that my play for the attract stage could be a webinar that I host. It could be a free ebook, and I've given ideas here. So these are things that you can start off with. And then what you can say is this something that I'm already working on and I just need to improve upon it? Is it something I need to create from the very beginning? So the nice thing about this is nothing that we're suggesting has to be something that you start from scratch. So if you're doing something in your business today that's working, maybe you continue to focus on that, and you work on how you measure it. You work on how do you make it better. You work on making sure that it gets in front of new eyeballs so that you're increasing the number of people coming in simply by changing the audience that you're exposing it to. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So one of the things that we talk about, whether you're doing this training or you're talking about the perfect customer journey training, is my goal is to never overwhelm you. So I like this idea of always focusing on 3 things, because 3 things is something that you can realistically do. And 3 things means I'm going to focus on 1 thing in the attract stage, 1 thing in the sales stage, and 1 thing in the wow stage that's ultimately going to help my entire customer journey. And when you put it down here on your plan, you choose exactly what you're doing. Are you creating? Are you automating it? Are you measuring it? Are you optimizing it? So maybe, for example, let's say, for example, and this is what I mean when I talk about automate. Maybe your follow-up currently is all manual, and you still need to actually go through the process of creating your long-term nurture or finishing that off and turning it on. So that means that maybe your sales stage is working on your long-term nurture and your offer workflows and automating them and removing yourself from that manual action. Versus measuring it is, let's talk about email metrics and text message metrics and workflow metrics and seeing where are people falling off, where are they unsubscribing, where are they disengaging, where are they buying, where are they scheduling a consult. Understanding what is actually happening in a workflow so that you can start to make tweaks and adjustments to know exactly how you can move the lever, pull the knob, so instead of always do more, make better what you already have. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts or feedback or questions about what this resource is right here? So the intention or the idea of this is make this a living, breathing document as a part of your business. So use this as the tool that helps you focus on your goals and your priorities. At any given time, you're not working on more than 3 things at a time. At any given time, you can be evaluating what your current step is. What are you working on to achieve these goals? And now all of a sudden, instead of saying, I'm going to achieve 15 new clients by the end of May, and I have absolutely no idea how I'm going to do it, I have a pathway to focus on it. I'm going to specifically focus on a new lead magnet. I'm going to specifically focus on automating my follow-up. I'm going to focus on making sure that when somebody buys, it's automated or it's got good outcomes or something along those lines. So you've got lots of different ways that you can use this to manage the different key functions and key buckets in your business. Okay. So that's the resource. So now let's take a look at your dashboard. So if I pop over, and I might pop over into our account as well, just so you can see a little bit of perspective on how this works. So if I click on the dashboard itself, I just want to revisit this. We always talk about it in demos, and then and we've done one other training on our dashboard and on the pipeline, but it's been a little while. So I think it is an important thing to keep in mind. So your data on here is only as good as your ability to manage it. So I will say that I am guilty of forgetting sometimes and ignoring this page. But when I have a goal that I'm working on, so that goal of 15 new clients by the end of May, that was my goal, and I achieved it this morning. And when I was really focused on, thank you, Linda, when I was really focused on getting really clear as to how close I was on that, like I was meticulously following my pipeline. I was making sure that it was accurate and correct. And what I also found in terms of like optimizing it was there's flaws in my workflows. So I can give you some feedback on my own. So as an example, you guys are all clients. And every time you schedule a consult, it creates a record in my pipeline and it says that you have a $97 value, except all you're doing is scheduling a strategy call with me because we need to catch up or a virtual coffee. That's not revenue. So what it's doing is giving me false numbers here. So I'm kind of at a place right now where I need to tweak and adjust my pipeline to make sure that it's giving me accurate data so that when I start to pay attention to my conversion rate, I know that it's going to be reliable and I can use that data to help me with the next stage of my goal setting. So what you have is 3 different tiles up here at the top that you can start to pay attention to. And we are going to talk about how this data is populated. But when we focus on so you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are all interconnected. The first thing is your opportunities. The name, the other name for this could be leads in on your business. How many leads are you generating in your business? When you create automation or you created an opportunity tile in your pipeline, which we'll show in just a second, and you put a monetary value or a lead value to it, it's going to show up either in closed, open, or lost based on the date parameters that you have set up here at the top. So if I do, let's say last year, I think that might give us a little bit better information. So this is our little dummy data. So this is going to be dollars. So this and this is what gives me my number here. I don't have to do any math, and I don't do math, but this is based on how many opportunities am I closing versus how many opportunities have I lost. And loss could also include abandoned opportunities. So these numbers here are, these 2 sets of numbers are what's essentially creating these numbers here. And then if you want that pretty colorful visual representation of what's happening in your pipeline, it's showing up right here. And this is going to give you dollar amount, it's going to give you percentages, and it's going to give you the total number of contacts. Any questions about the dashboard part? We're kind of starting at the end and working our way backwards. So now let's click on opportunities. So in the opportunities, we have our actual pipeline. When you signed up for Automation on a Mission, I think you get 3 pipelines already created for you. You get one called Automation on a Mission, you get one called Sales Pipeline, and one called a Project Pipeline. The last time we did a training that was similar to this, we put Maggie on the spot and we created some automation around a project pipeline for her. But for the sake of this training, we're really going to focus on revenue. So what we have, so you have automation as a part of the perfect customer journey. Whether you're using it or not is totally up to you. So let me give you a couple of examples. One place where automation can be easily created, if you have an appointment confirmation workflow, you probably have create an opportunity, or update an opportunity that puts them into the consult scheduled of your Automation on a Mission pipeline. So let's take a quick look at that, so you can see what I'm talking about. I just want you to have this perspective, and then we're gonna talk through some of those specifics. So in your appointment confirmation workflow, as an example, create or update an opportunity should be putting them into the Automation on a Mission pipeline in the consult scheduled stage. So remember how I mentioned that I have a flaw in my system? I've not done anything to personalize this or make it so it's more strategic. So like my feedback for myself that I was thinking about in the shower this morning was I want to create a fork in the road here so that the opportunity is only added to non-customers, because I don't need to be tracking you as customers, because all it's doing is bogging down my pipeline. But that's just little things for me. But you can personalize this however you want. But what it's going to do is if someone's already in your pipeline, it's going to move them into the consult scheduled stage. If they don't have a tile, they don't have one of these little doodads right here, then it's going to create one. And it's going to call it, the name of that tile is going to be their name. And so that's the default. If you want, you could go in and do your own, like maybe you have different appointment workflows for, so Sharon, something for you is maybe you have a workflow that's bringing people in from LinkedIn and you have a stage that's not contacted, and you may want to put in here opportunity source LinkedIn lead or something like that. And that's just going to give you a little bit more data about, how many of your contacts are coming from one place versus another. And then I gave you the example that anytime somebody enters my consult scheduled, it's giving a lead value of $97. It's because I put that right here. And I gave it a lead value of $97 because that's how much it costs to sign up for Automation on a Mission. And then because this is not a purchase, I'm going to leave the status as open. So you've got a couple of other little things that you can do here about, so allow an opportunity to move to any previous stage. So I feel like you should be able to move people forwards and backwards in the pipeline, because you never know whether or not somebody's really close to making a decision and now they need to go back to having a consultation and you're kind of back into that negotiating stage. And then allowing duplicate opportunities. If your business is one, Judith, maybe in your situation where somebody's buying multiple packages, you may want to have the ability for them to enter that pipeline numerous times and have multiple stages of being won. So that way you're always aware of when pending revenue is coming in or promised money, okay? So this is what this can look like in a workflow. So here's how you add it to a workflow. If I click on any one of my little pluses, and I'm gonna try and do a better job of scrolling in these because I feel like I skip ahead because I know what everything is called. But it's called create and update an opportunity. So if I click on that, I can now fill in my details. So you're gonna find which pipeline you want, Automation on a Mission. You get to choose the stage that you want them to go into. You get to call it whatever you want. I prefer the name because that's going to be fast, easy access. This makes sense to me. But if you want to call it something else, you can call it anything that you want. Put your lead value, put your opportunity source, make sure you associate a specific kind of status, and then save that and publish it. And that's how you can use that in any stage of your pipelines. So let's say, for example, maybe you want a stage in your pipeline called long-term nurture or nurturing. And in your long-term nurture, you want to add an opportunity stage. So you have to have the stage already created, but you would assign that stage. And now as soon as they enter this workflow, they're going to get moved from wherever they are in the system to that. And now you have a high level piece of awareness of exactly where people are in every stage of your customer journey.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I have a new lead magnet I've created, and it's a checklist. So I'm going to create a workflow for people to be able to get the checklist and have it delivered to them. And then I'm going to wow them because I'm going to send additional stuff with the checklist that'll be above and beyond what I offered. So would I put that in that workflow? Checklist is created, and then send the follow-up nurture emails. Is that how that would work?
That's a great way to do it. So here's our this is our current workflow that we're using actively right now. So when somebody signs up for my framework, they sign up for my webinar, a tile is automatically going to be created. So not only do I know where they are in terms of not just that they opted into something, I know exactly how they entered my system. I know which one of the things that they're working on. So it gives me a little bit more information about how close they are to a sale. So you can have one of your stages be, name it your lead magnet. You could make it general that they're at the lead magnet stage. You can differentiate that from your lead magnet stage. You could differentiate that different from how you're working on nurturing them over time. So that way you understand they're past that initial delivery. And that could be one of those things where when you come down or you come in and you sit down and you're like, okay, I'm going to focus on sales calls right now. I'm going to do the big scary thing. I'm going to make a complimentary call to the people in my nurture work or the people in my nurture stage because they're not expecting it. And that's a way for me to go above and beyond and give them a different way of touching them. Does that make sense? So, yeah. So every time you come in, you can look at, so this is full transparency of our business. So I can come in and say, okay, who do I need to follow up with? How do I make sure that balls are not being dropped in my business? How do I make sure that the people that said, promise to pay or that are thinking about it or what have you are getting the love and the support and the nurturing that they need? Because I can come in here and see exactly where they're at. And if you worry about this is a lot of work, so much of it can be automated, even what happens when they time out. So let's say, for example, you want to make sure that if after 60 days, they haven't taken any action and you've not successfully gotten in touch with them, you want them to be marked as an abandoned, you can create a workflow that's sole job is to mark them as a lost or abandoned opportunity. And now that money shows up in your lost, abandoned section of your app on the dashboard. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So when you create an opportunity and you assign a lead value, that's where this money shows up. So this $100 shows up. And so the more I have in here, the more information my dashboard's going to give me. And the better able I am to understand exactly where I'm at in order for me to understand where I need to go. Or how I'm going to get to where I need to go. So if I go back to my opportunities and I click on pipelines, this is essentially the like control panel for all of your pipelines. So let's say you want to start on working on your automation pipeline because that's already integrated into your automations, and you want to personalize the stages. So if you click on the little pencil, so I'm in my automation, I'm in where I've got all my pipelines. And I want
Can you explain the different pipelines too?
Yeah.
You don't do that right second, but
yeah, absolutely. So I want to accommodate Judith's request about creating I already have it in there. I'm not sure why it didn't show up before. Maybe it was and I just didn't notice it. So I've got a stage for opted in. So I've got an opted in stage. Maybe I want to have didn't I tell you my computer was gonna overheat? So I'm going to add a stage called nurturing because I want there to be a way for me to automatically know when that's happening. And then I'm just going to click this little up arrow. Oh, look, apparently I'm consistent. I already had one. Okay, so I'm going to move that up to after my opted in because that feels like a natural progression. So, consult scheduled, maybe they've moved from consult scheduled to call completed. So easy things that you can automate. You can ask a question or you can send an email to yourself. So let's say, for example, your appointments are all 30 minutes to an hour. So an hour and 15 minutes after the appointment in that automate appointment confirmation workflow, you can send yourself an email that says, did such and such show up for their appointment? And you have a check yes and check no link in each one of those. Similar to what we've done a training on the satisfaction survey, same exact strategy, just a different use case for it. If you check the yes button or the yes link in your email, then it automatically moves them to the call completed stage of your workflow. So that's how you can automate not having to constantly be in your dashboard, but also have your dashboard working for you. You can automate what happens. Let's say, for example, you are in the middle of a launch and you're going to go with an assertive sales strategy that involves making phone calls, sales calls, and you call somebody and you leave a message and you want an automated follow-up that happens after you've left that first voicemail that says, hey, I missed you. I'd love to get in touch. Here's a link. Let's make this really easy. Book a call with my calendar. And just like we can use an action inside the workflow to show us how to, to move somebody from point A to point B, we can also use a trigger to say, like, when somebody moves into a stage. So let's say, for example, you have a consult with somebody and they don't show up, and you call them and you leave a voicemail, and so now you want to move them into the left of first voicemail stage, and it's going to now send a workflow that says, I'm sorry I missed you. Maybe our signals got crossed. Click this link and let's reschedule. So you can create automation, not just that moves people back and forth, but you can create automation simply based on activity that's happening inside your workflow. So it can be super powerful when you think about actions and triggers as it relates to how you're creating accurate data for reporting in your system. Any questions about those pieces? Okay. So I don't think you guys have this one. I don't remember. I think I was doing so I use the demo account when I'm doing demos. So a lot of times I'll create stuff on the fly. So this could be a super simple, like phone sales kind of strategy kind of thing. Or, you know, if you're just focusing on like super high level, I wouldn't say that I would use this one, honestly, because I don't feel like it has enough detail. Your sales pipeline, however, could very well be exactly what I was just giving you examples of for this is what I have when I'm in the middle of doing those kinds of actions in my own business. Is I'm going to give the person 2 chances. So I'm going to call once. I'm going to give it a few days, or I'm going to call once. If I leave a message, it puts them into the workflow. It immediately sends an email that says, sorry, I missed you. Would love to get on a call. I know you were interested in learning more. Here's a link to my calendar. Give them a few days. If they don't respond, either by calling me back or by making an appointment, I call them again. And I have a task reminder. So the workflow tells me when it's time to call. And then I call a second time. And if I call a second time and I leave a second voicemail, it's going to follow a similar format, but I'm not going to continue to call and call and call because I'm like a solopreneur as well, or almost. And, you know, like at the end of the day, like I have to focus on where I can find traction. So you can do that over and over again. You can have long follow-ups, maybe after second voicemail, you put them into that long-term nurture to keep them company. The outcome is still the same: schedule a consult, schedule a consult, schedule a consult. But I'm focusing on, and I might say hot leads is probably maybe further down. You know, maybe we're doing hot leads is above follow-up to close. So new leads to me would be the equivalent to somebody who's entered my system in one way or another, but hasn't been contacted. They've scheduled a consult or an appointment. They haven't shown up. I would say this, and this are all going to be a very similar strategy. So they might be in the no-show until I can make a phone call. So they didn't show up. I marked them as a no-show. It put them in here. This gives me a signal that says, make your first phone call. I make my first phone call. I leave my first voicemail, and it goes into this workflow. I just explained the second one. Separate from, you know, this sort of chasing the rabbit is the hot lead. So this is somebody who is expressing interest. They're clicking things. They're responding to emails. They're asking questions, but they're not ready to buy. So they're definitely not a cold lead, but they're not like on the fence. They're not ready to purchase. Somebody that you've made an offer to, and these two also could be redundant. Follow up to close. This could be somebody who has closed, has said yes, they're interested, but they haven't purchased yet. So if they're in this stage, it could be a tickle to you to say, pay attention, make a phone call. They said they were going to buy. It's been 3 days and they haven't done so yet. So it could be more so that they enter this stage if they haven't made a purchase. So your workflows could also do the same kind of thing. Pending service completion is going to be, I would say that's more for like a, somebody's bought something and you need to go and do the work kind of thing. That could be applicable for like Maggie, service completed. They're on the other side of that, so they're done. And this might even trigger satisfaction survey, testimonials, and referrals.
Okay, so you're making a pipeline for each way you're getting a new leads in, like maybe Instagram, one for LinkedIn, one for email, one for, something like, is that how you would use this? I would say your workflow might actually be the way that you differentiate the lead source, because that's really the key difference there is you want and honestly, for you, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, your traffic source is going to tell you that. But if your sales process is the same, regardless as to whether or not it's LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook, I would use one pipeline. But maybe you have a different workflow that says, if they entered via Facebook, I'm going to create an opportunity and I'm going to say the lead source is Facebook. If they entered via Instagram, I'm going to create an opportunity and say that the lead source is Instagram. And if that's not like, if that piece is not super important to you, you don't have to have that sort of if statement. It's really about, how much detail do you want when it comes to those things? And then the automation pipeline, your lead pipeline, and your sales pipeline are essentially 3 different ways to achieve the same thing. So it's a style thing. And we created different versions so that people could see that there's versatility and to help get people's creative juices flowing.
so that they're not feeling like they have to make a round peg fit into a square hole. I want you to build the pipeline that works for your business, not make our pipeline work for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Question.
So, yes, ma'am.
Project pipeline, is that more of a project manager pipeline?
Yeah, so I didn't go into that one this go around, but I will take a look for you. So oops, sorry, I clicked the wrong one. So the very simple project pipeline is not started, in progress, approved, delivered. So Judith, if I was working on your website, I could say that your website is in the in progress stage right now. And so where this becomes super helpful is if you're like in a business like building websites or taking photos or creating logos or writing copy, maybe you create individual stages, and this could be more elaborate if you wanted it to be. And what you're saying is, like, maybe, for example, there's an in progress, there's a send for feedback, waiting for approval, or, you know, like second draft edits, things like that, to sort of like indicate like any stages where you're in like a process of improvement stage before it's finally approved. And then with each stage of your project pipeline, you could be creating different kinds of communications that go to your client. So this is super helpful when you're like looking at ways to sort of add additional value. So like think about like the deliver and wow stage when someone is actually become a client. So so we used Maggie as the example a couple of months ago, and we talked about maybe when somebody books an appointment to do a photo session with her, they're in the in progress stage or they're awaiting an appointment. And so with that, when they move into that stage, okay. So when they move, how they move into that stage is they make a purchase. They purchase a photography package. And when they get into that stage, they're marked as the awaiting appointment, and they get an email or a series of emails that are how to prepare for your photo shoot. Here's what to expect. This is what I'm doing to make sure that you have a quality experience. And so she could, those kinds of things can be things that you could be doing in preparation for the actual event. Maybe in the during stage, it's your reminders to show up and where to go and those kinds of things. And then maybe in your in progress stage, it's, I wanted to let you know what I'm working on right now. And it's generalized. So it's like, this is what my editing process looks like. This is how I make sure that every single one of your pictures is absolutely perfect and intentionally what you've asked for, yada, yada, yada. You know what I'm saying? So you can add like little things that are just sort of helping create this like warmer, squishier experience for your clients. And I love using photography as an example because I've had a couple of bad experiences with hiring photographers. And I feel for Maggie in that she's like, and I'm going to call her out because she's here. She's like a one-person show. And there's a lot of stuff that she can automate in her business, and a lot of photographers can automate in their business and they don't. But the one thing that she can't automate is editing those pictures and making them beautiful. So somebody's always going to have to go through the process of tweaking them and making sure that they meet the specs of what the paying customer wants. And so like that's time and that's labor. And when we're the consumer and we're on the other side and patiently waiting for our beautiful photos, we think that the person's just taken our money, and made us stare at the camera in awkward positions for an hour and then just disappeared. But, all you have to do is give them a couple of touches to say, hey, this is what I'm doing, so that they understand why it takes so long and why this is such a delicate and important process. And things like that will make that experience so much easier and better. And also will make you stand out from the competition because nobody's doing it. And then, like maybe there's an editing stage. And so you give them that expectation of this is what the process looks like. If this doesn't meet your expectations, then this is how we will accommodate you, so on and so forth. So does that give you some good ways to think about a project pipeline?
It does. And I'm also thinking like when I'm ready to launch my course and I'm dripping delivery of it, instead of using this, I'll just put the hey, you're in day 3, you're in day 5 emails into that workflow, the drip
right
workflow.
And what you're seeing, so they don't really see a whole, like ultimately what you're doing is you're building it. Oh, you could do that in a workflow, and you could say in one single workflow, multiple steps. So drip 1, update opportunity to stage 1. Drip 2, update opportunity stage 2, drip 3. And so at any given time, your pipeline may not be a project pipeline, it might be a course pipeline. So you'll understand how close are people to reaching the end, how close are, you know, like where are they scattered amongst this thing? So that way, you know, you could be thinking about next steps. How do I create the next upsell opportunity for them to continue their transformation and their journey?
Got it.
So that's a great idea. I really
And
like
you could also put in there, if they haven't, is there a way to tell whether they have opened a module or not? So you can, you know, hey, it's time for you to open module 6 and work through it.
I think so. Let me take a look. I feel like there was something, but there might not be. I feel like there's something about categories. I would say it might be an if statement. And I don't know how far I can get in here because I don't have any. Yeah. So I think you're going to find it as an if statement. So if they completed the module, if they completed the category, something like that, then you're going to, you know, update them. If they haven't, and it could be like a wait, you know, X number of days. And if they haven't done it, then give them a tickle or a nudge. And if they have, you know, moved into the next thing. So those are ways that you can do, I think, use the automation to make that happen.
And I guess, Christy, the way I would know whether they would have to open the email with the module, and then it'd be up to, and then where our courses live, where the content lives, can we tell whether they consumed it or not?
Yeah, and so that if statement related to membership stuff is going to be membership related, not email related. So if you're wanting to pay attention to whether or not they're opening and clicking emails, your if statement is going to be related to emails. But what you really want is to know whether or not that they're consuming the content in your course.
Right.
So when you're building your course and they're going through it, they mark complete, and you can create rules where they can't move to the next module until they mark it as complete. So,
and that's all done in the membership site.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, got it. Perfect.
Yeah. So what are things that I can help you with in order? So like, I feel like I'm talking very like hypothetical, high level. What I would challenge is, number one, if you're not actively working through the automations, you know, focus on those things, because here's my look at my face, quick reminder. So we are good at delivering our lead magnet, and and then people fall off the cliff, and that's the end. Even if your lead magnet is 4 or 5 or 8 emails or whatever, like there's no plan. And so the whole idea of the perfect customer journey is, how do you move them to the next stage? Move to them to the next stage. So I just re-recorded it for the umpteenth bazillionth time the other day, and I'll say it over and over again, that people buy when they're ready to buy, not when we're ready to sell. So if you're not consistently touching your people, then when they're ready to buy, you're not probably the one they're thinking about. So you have to make sure that you are focusing on all of those things, and you don't have to do all of them at once. Focus on your playbook, pick the thing that you're going to work on first, tweak that, adjust that, master that, move to the next one. Tweak that, adjust that, master that. So if you have a lead magnet right now and it's live and it's working, don't go make a new lead magnet. Go focus on your follow-up. Focus on your indoctrination. Focus on your long-term nurture. Okay? Do you guys know what I mean when I talk about indoctrination? Okay, so tell me what you think indoctrination is.
It's onboarding and telling them what to expect and showing them what the process is. This is what our plan is. This is what we're going to work on, so that they can see that they're going to end up where they want it to be.
Yes.
Even if they don't know where that is or where they're going to change it along the way. They want to know that if they don't have a plan, you have a plan. Mm-hmm.
So Sharon says know, like, and trust. So both of those things work hand in hand. So to your point, Linda, you are putting yourself in the driver's seat and being the expert. And to Sharon's point, you are saying, trust me, I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to deliver on my promises. So your very first email is really about, these are the ways that we're going to communicate with each other. And then making sure that whatever you promise in that first email is something that you can sustain and do sustain. So if you say, I'm going to send a monthly newsletter, then making sure that you can sustain that and you're doing that on a regular basis. So I hear a lot, you know, oh, you guys, you send a lot of emails, but I send a lot of emails because I want to make sure that that I don't get forgotten. And what I hear consistently is you don't have time to forget me, which is great. I'm achieving that goal. So, and ultimately I'm making sure that all of that content is valued. So there's a lot of giving. And so your giving can be those storytelling opportunities. It could be success stories. It could be another way of giving a lead magnet. And the great thing about a lead magnet in your nurture and your indoctrination is you don't have to ask for their name and their email. You can just give it straight in the email. And the more you do that, the more you train them to go looking for your content, because you're going to be giving something of value that they're super excited about and interested in. So if there's one thing that you could really do, like focus on to like really knock it out of the park for your sales and for achieving your goals, is making sure that you have really good follow-up beyond that nurture series. So, or I'm sorry, beyond that lead magnet. So look at that indoctrination and look at that long-term nurture and build on that. And if, you know what, when I created all that stuff, ChatGPT wasn't around. So feel free to like ditch it and write your own stuff using ChatGPT. And I use ChatGPT. So our long-term nurture, I think, is like 22 emails right now. And I went into ChatGPT with different topics, or I would say, you know, here's the client story I want to share. And it had ChatGPT create the filler content that went around, and it saved me so much time. And it's the only reason I have 22 emails right now. So, and what I do is I just build on that. So basically, like if you've reached the end, then I'm just going to send you another email when that time comes, when I've created another one. So I'm just building this big vault of content, and it's all value for them.
I have a question. So when it comes to the long-term nurture, you said you're up to 22 emails. So do you just keep sending emails forever and ever and ever, regardless?
So to that point, so ironically, a question was asked in our Facebook group on Friday from our new VA who is learning. And she asked, when do you stop sending emails? And somebody said never. And then that response was praised. As a quick response, that's a big no-no. So we do have a stop date. We have an end goal. So what we teach is that the average shelf life of a person on your list that's not actively engaging with your content is 90 days. So true engagement is clicking on links, responding to emails, buying your stuff. So what the metric used to be was open rate. But what happens is people like me will open all the emails because I can't stand having the number climbing. So like there's people, like I follow a bunch of marketers that I won't unsubscribe from, but I keep their stuff so that when I'm lacking in creativity, I go and I look at what other people are doing. And chances are you're probably doing something similar in your own business. You're probably not reading every single email, but you still have them. So that's not a good metric of engagement. But if they're clicking on your links, then that's a good sign that they've gotten at least to the point where you have a link in your email. So that would be a good metric to gauge for success. If you know with certainty that they're not opening your emails, then absolutely 90 days, give them the boot. And the thing about it is if you delete them or from your system, or you mark them as DND from your system, and I would prefer personally to get rid of them, because if they choose to opt in again, they're treated like a brand new contact and they get a whole new royal experience. So you don't have to hold on to them for some sort of like, you know, like forever and ever kind of thing, and never like get rid of them and just email them until the end of time, because all you're going to do is hurt your sender reputation.
So you're saying after the 90 days, you would go in and actually delete them.
Yeah, and I do put a step in between that. So we use a re-engagement email that says, and I think you and I talked about this before, Susan, about like after that 90-day period, and I am working on upgrading our email hygiene workflow that you can get in the marketplace to make it so that you can also trigger an email that says, hey, I noticed that you've not really been, you know, reading my stuff, or, you know, like whatever you want. I want to make this really easy for you. If you want to stay on the list, click this button. And if you don't want to stay on the list, no worries, no skin off my back, click this button. And if they don't engage like at all, then you can decide whether or not you want to keep emailing them or just delete them. But if they unsubscribe using that button that's high up in your email, it just applies a tag. So it doesn't do anything in terms of like sending metrics or reputation metrics. All it's doing is giving you a cue that they've given you a safe invitation to remove them, and you 100% have to get rid of them at that point.
And what is that called in the marketplace?
There's a workflow called email hygiene, I think. So right now it's designed to trigger. So when you install it, you get a little video and it walks you through how to create the smart list, because that's the one thing I can't deploy into your accounts. So you create a smart list for an unsubscribe tag, a bounce tag, and a spam tag, I think is the other one. And you could do that as one smart list, or you could have 3 separate ones. And then every week you go in and you look at all the people. So every time you send an email, it's going to, and it bounces or it doesn't deliver, it's going to tag them based on whatever their status is. So, and then you can go in and decide how you want to handle that. And then the next phase of that workflow is going to be that email re-engagement thing that invites them to stay or go.
Okay. And that's all part of the email hygiene. Is that?
Yeah.
Email
And just as a quick FYI, I charge $1 for it because I can't get it to you and also have the checkout page on the same page. So the $1 is really just so that you can get the thing, not because I care about making $1 off of your thing. It's the only way to get that and the other workflows all on the same page. Jim, you had a question?
I had a question about, so I haven't been sending nurture, after my sales process, whatever, I send a nurture series, but I haven't been sending like a newsletter or monthly, whatever, but I have a decent sized list just from like people that sign up for my webinar, from a summit I did, and other people I've talked to, all that. But what would you say? Should I just start sending them emails, or would you recommend like engaging them somehow?
Yeah, so typically, like if you've got people that you've not been talking to in a while that you want to see, like, hey, do they want to? What I would suggest, how big is the list? Do you any guess?
Like 500 maybe.
So what I would suggest is create an email that's, hey, I realize it's been a while since we've chatted. I just want to give you a quick heads up about what we've been working on, what we're doing, and also ask your permission. Is it okay for me to include you on emails that look something like this, and tell them what they can expect and ask for their permission? So you can be as risky and aggressive as you want. So you can completely ignore this altogether, or you could send an email that looks something like that and ask them to, click a button to say, yes, I want to stay on your list, or click a button, no, I don't want to stay on this list. Or you could go with even click this button if you don't want to be included. Otherwise, I'm going to start sending you emails. So you can, you choose based on how you think your audience is going to respond. And then what I would do is when you're ready to send that email, I would send it as a batch email to like 100 at a time and separate it by a couple of hours. So that way you can track and monitor how it's doing and make sure that you don't have any sort of excessive bouncing or spams, like reporting spam. We did make a switch over to Lead Connector, and I am so grateful for it. It was easy to do on my end. It will be easy for you guys if you follow the directions for your particular hosting company, if you create your own dedicated sending domain. But regardless of whether you do that or not, when you send an email and you exceed the industry threshold, I get an email and it tells me that your sending practices are risky and that you're hurting yourself. So I will forward you that email whenever that happens so that you can work on making changes. So if you continue to do it, Lead Connector will blacklist you, and then you get into trouble. But we really try to, proactively work with you. That's why we talk about these things. And it will only help you with making sure that your emails are landing in the inbox.
Okay, so
where do I find the link to book an appointment with you for some private time? I booked an appointment through your website for a demo. That's not what I want. I want office hours, but I can never find that link.
Okay, I'll send it to you.
Well, I've already booked you. So instead of a demo, it's going to be office hours.
Okay.
Is that a problem?
Well, because the demo is only 30 minutes and I think you want an hour.
Okay.
So why don't I just change it? I'll change it to 60 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. I'm sorry, Sharon, what were you going to say?
Oh yeah, my question was, that's not all emails, right? That's just the re-engagement. Like eventually I can send out more than 100 emails at a time.
Oh yeah. No, if you've got a group of people, so I think most of the people in this room have heard me say this. If you have a group of people you haven't talked to in a long time and you're just now starting to like, okay, I'm going to build structure around how I do this, and it's been a long time since you've made any sort of communications, it helps you to like warm them up to the idea that they're going to start seeing your stuff in their inbox. And if you don't do that, what happens is they're like, Sharon, who's Sharon? I don't want to hear from Sharon. And then everybody hits the unsubscribe link and you shoot yourself in the foot. So we consider your email sender reputation to be about the equivalent of like your spending credit, like your credit card credit. It's really easy to damage and really hard to rebuild. So we always try to go with the most conservative, safe route of ensuring that you have the best chance of landing in people's inbox. And we're proactively going to take action to help you stay there versus get into trouble where your emails are consistently not being delivered or landing in spam and things like that. Because it's really hard to fix when that happens.
Thank you.
Yeah. I've worked with really big clients that have large lists and they like to send emails from now until the end of time. And then they'll host an event and people will buy tickets to the event. And then it's time to like give details. And then the people don't get the emails with the details. And it's because they don't have good email practices. Their people unsubscribe from their lists and don't understand why they don't get their important emails. And I'm like, yeah. So I'm going to tell you all this stuff and it's still going to be like, we'll still have conversation about it because it's hard and it's constantly changing. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am, Linda. And then I think we got to roll. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm out of here.
Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
All right. I'll talk to you on Thursday.
Thanks,
Bye.
Christy. Good stuff.
Thank you.